Hi everyone, I hope you're doing really well. Welcome to this episode where we're going to be looking at timeframes relating to our buy-to-let buying process. Now, if this is partway through, then this is actually part of a series where we're looking at the entire buy-to-let buying process from a property not even being on our radar to a property being purchased and generating a monthly profit and also with great prospects for capital appreciation. So it might be worth going back and seeing the other episodes. We start at the beginning with looking at our 6 key buying principles, our buying criteria, which are these items in green, the 6 key principles. Then we moved on to looking at taking the entire process and dividing it into 9 steps, which we call our key result areas in blue. In the previous episode, we looked at the activity associated with each of these KRAs. In this video, we're going to be looking at timeframes involved, and then the next episode, we'll be looking at our KPIs, key performance indicators. So timeframes and why are they important? Now, we're looking at these pink arrows here and the numbers above. And these are typical for us as a business. Now, I'll explain as we go through that we have got some outliers to this, but generally speaking, this is the way things run for us in terms of our timeframes. Now, are they typical of other people? I just don't know. But this is what happens for us. So from online lead, getting attention to a property we think meets our criteria, right through having an offer accepted, can be as little as 3 days. And that's probably a bit of an outlier, but it is 3 days is the quick as we've had, right up to 300 days. And 300 days sounds like an awful long time, and it is. But this comes about as a result of what we mentioned in our previous episode, where if an offer doesn't go to completion and we end up purchasing, we then continue to resubmit our offer and maintain our interest in that property on a regular basis. And we have had properties that have sold subject to contract, fallen out of bed, sold subject to contract and fallen out of bed, and then we have come in and said, well, we're still willing to buy it. And that's why it explains the 3 to 300 day gap. Purchase for us will take somewhere between 1 and 3 months, 30 to 90 days. We have got a very good solicitor, but sometimes things just take time that are outside of our control. A refurbishment, again, will take similar time frame, 1 to 3 months is pretty typical for us. Although, again, if you're watching any videos on our channel, you'll realise we have got some that have gone way longer than planned. And we've learned stuff and we've had mistakes and hiccups, but there we are. Typically, it's 30 to 90 days for a refurb. And I put here 0 to 15 days for the tenant. Now, it's not really 0. I probably should put 7 to 14, really. I just like the round numbers. And if I'm really typical, it would be within a week from a property going live on the portals to then people registering their interest, going and doing a viewing, and then submitting their intention to rent and signing the paperwork is normally a week. It may just tip into the second week if you're looking for guarantors and a few other background checks and things. It hasn't gone anything past 2 weeks ever for us. So if you've got a property, by the way, and you're in that situation, you're waiting, I don't know, more than 2 weeks for a tenant, you've probably got one of the factors wrong, maybe the wrong house, maybe the wrong area, and maybe you've just done the wrong refurb for that type of tenant you should be attracting. Possibly. Not judging, just saying. And then the management is going to be, I don't know, 6 months plus, 180 days. And the other one then finally is 30 to 90 days for the refinance to take place and for the money to actually land in your account. Now this is interesting really for a number of things. Really, if you just look at from purchase, so for the refurbish stage, finding a tenant and then applying for the refinance, you've got at worst case, and we always recommend calculating on worst case, hoping for better. You've got 90 days for the refurb, 15 days to find a tenant, and then you've got another 90 days for the refinance to land. And this is interesting because we have had this question a number of times when working with private investors. How are you going to survive from purchase through refurbishment, through management, and then through to the refinance? How are you going to manage from that gap of 195 days at worst? How are we going to manage? And this raises the important question of financially forecasting your business. And we're going to do an episode on that later on, perhaps with Beck, how we're going to forecast your business to make sure you don't run out of money. But this is a type of question that you can then be preparing if you do decide to go down the private investor route and have a discovery day And an interesting thing is, if they don't ask that question, you could actually preempt it and say, you may be thinking, how are we going to manage from refurbishment start to refinance finish? And the answer is, we're going to be doing this. Let's explore it. So there are our timeframes typically for our buy-to-let buying process. I hope you found it interesting. If you did, then please just give us a thumbs up. If you've got comments or questions, then please share them. And finally, next episode, we'll wrap this series up. We're going to be looking at the KPIs, the key performance indicators, which is the information in this box here. So stay tuned for that one. Apart from that, I'd just like to say, as always, thank you ever so much for your support. My name is Josh Harrison, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one.